Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Hackney Council's Planning Subcommittee meeting. I'm Councillor Jessica Webb, and I will be chairing this evening's meeting. This meeting will be recorded and is being live streamed on YouTube and is also being transcribed. Councillors taking part in voting this evening are present here in the council chamber. Welcome to any members of the public who have joined us in the chamber on the live stream. May I also welcome members of the press. For anyone joining the meeting remotely via Google Meet, there is a chat function. However, please only use this to raise IT-related issues. As chair of the subcommittee, I will not be monitoring it, and it does not form part of the minutes of this meeting. Meeting participants are reminded to turn off their mobile phones or put it on silent. Also, please note any disruptive behaviour and you'll be asked to leave. So I want that noted, please. Thank you very much. In the event of an internet outage, we will adjourn the meeting and then come back and continue once resolved. I will turn to my fellow planning subcommittee members and ask them to please introduce themselves, starting from the front.
Councillor Samata, Ifra Samata, Shackle Ward.
Councillor Ali Sadek, Kings Park Ward.
Councillor John Marcross, Lancaster.
Councillor Claire Potter, Brownswood Ward.
Thank you very much. I was saying with the officers, I just am aware that we have no objectors here tonight. Can I just check that no one is here to object? No? Do we have any members of the public in front of us? You're all LBH officers.
Some of them are, not everybody.
Okay.
Based on the title I've got here.
But everyone knows what's going to happen because I explain how this works, but we don't have any objectors tonight. So we're not going to be doing that. We'll have the presentation. You, as the applicants, will open it up to questions and then we take a vote. I presume that you absolutely understand that and there's no question marks over that.
I think some of them have done several.
I think you have, haven't you? So let's just say you know how it works because my role is making sure that everyone's happy. We've had all the questions and we can make a decision based on what we've read, what we've heard today. And that is pretty much the end of the matter. So that's it for the introductions. Can I have the apologies for absence, please?
Chair, we have had, obviously we've got long-term dispensation leave from Councillor Levy, and also I've had apologies from Councillor Sousa Runga, but I was going to look over to the planning subcommittee members if they've heard or have received apologies for any of their colleagues. I'll take that as a no, thank you very much. So obviously the other members who aren't present, they will be recorded as absent for this meeting.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any interests they wish to declare? No, thank you very much. Agenda item 3, to consider any proposals, questions referred to the subcommittee by the council monitoring officer. And I don't believe we've received any.
That is correct, Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to agenda item 4, the minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes of, yes, and we don't have the minutes because it's happened a bit too soon and they'll be considered at
A future meeting.
a future meeting. So we don't have any minutes to consider. Shall we acknowledge Councillor Michael Desmond has, no, that's just welcoming you, Councillor Desmond. Thank you very much. And just in time, because we are going to move to the first substantive item on the agenda, which is agenda item 6. Are we all okay with our Wi-Fi? Yeah, okay. Well, then the floor is all yours for agenda item 6. Thank you. Off you go.
(2025) 1821 is an application at the former boiler house, now demolished on Pedro Street, which would vary planning permission 2017-3512. The main changes would be to reduce the 8-storey element to 6 stories and increase the 3-storey element to 4 stories. amending the overall massing and internal layouts in response to changes to fire safety legislation. While the application is a Section 73, and so will not usually come before committee, it has two objections, which is a council-owned scheme is sufficient for it to require committee approval. I draw your attention to the addendum, which details two further letters of support from the Clapton Park Management Association and ward councillors Sharon Patrick and Lynn Troughton, alongside clarification of the highways works cost, confirmation of the building control acceptance of the fire safety submission. Actually, if you've read it, the building control addendum item has changed slightly from this when I wrote this, and some minor amendments to condition. Looking north, this site is completely cleared following the approval of a number of the conditions from the parent permission. It is surrounded by 3 to 4 story post-war residential development and sits opposite Gilpin Square of the Clapton Park estate with its ground floor retail uses. The site is not located within a conservation area and is not within the setting of a listed building. It is not designated as a priority office or industrial area. This photograph shows the cleared site following demolition of the boiler house. The contamination of the site from the previous use has been addressed by a remediation strategy during the course of the application and is subject to a revised condition. Here's the site viewed from the corner of Rushmore Road and Pedro Street. The view down Rushmore Road, looking east towards the site, shows the 3-story adjacent terrace and a line of street trees. The Pedro Street Youth Club is to the left of this view. Gilpin Square sits opposite the site to the east. These allotments on Rushmore Road are to the northwest of the site. The approved scheme from 2017 was 8 and 3 stories in height. As an 8-story building, this would require 2 staircases under the recent building regulations, which would have greatly decreased the amount of available floor space. As proposed, the building would be 6 stories to the front with 4 stories to the lower element. The taller portion would be elongated on its frontage with Rushmore Road. This design ensures that the approved 26 units would still be provided with the same number of bedrooms. All of the units of the scheme are proposed to be affordable housing, half of which would be social rent and half of which would be shared ownership. This is the same tenure mix as originally approved. An examinometric drawing shows the massing of the scheme clearly. While the heights and massing have changed, we consider in the committee report that the amenity impacts of the scheme remain acceptable. We also note that the amended design does not create significant impacts for the allotments to the northwest. The floor plans show the proposed layouts. The ground floor note the street trees on Rushmore Road. Work with the applicant since submission has sought to protect these trees, and the borough's tree officers are content with the current proposal in this respect, subject to a number of tree protection conditions. The cycle and refuse stores shown here are considered to be acceptable, and there are no objections to the amended scheme from highways or waste officers. To the right of the image can be seen the proposed impact of highway improvement works, which would remove an existing line of parking bays to be replaced by 2 blue badge spaces and build outs with tree planting and Sheffield stands. The floor plan repeats at first, second and third floor level. The quality of accommodation is good, with all units benefiting from private balconies and well-sized rooms. The great majority are dual aspect, and the unit that is not true dual aspect, which if I have, here's my finger, that one still has a side window that could aid cross ventilation. At the 4th floor, the massing steps back away from the adjacent 3-story terrace. Much the same at the top floor. At 4th and 6th floor levels, a biodiverse roof is provided, with photovoltaic panels also at the 6th floor. The sustainability of the scheme is improved from the parent permission, resulting in a reduced carbon offset payment, which is welcomed. A number of details remain to be submitted, and conditions are recommended to ensure that these are acceptable. Looking at biodiversity, the submitted urban greening factor calculations demonstrate that the proposed UGF score is 0.41, which has increased significantly from the pre-application stage and is in line with the policy targets. In addition to the 2 green roofs, landscape communal areas to front and rear provide good levels of planting, as well as doorstep play and recreation space. So in conclusion, the proposed application is considered acceptable in respect of relevant policies in comparison to the extant consent. The changed massing of the scheme does not create issues in respect of neighbouring amenity or the appearance of the building in the context. And as is detailed in the committee report, in these and other respects, the scheme is considered acceptable. It's recommended for approval subject to conditions and an amended unilateral undertaking.
Thank you. We have no objectors. So do you have additional points that you'd like to tell us? You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and councillors. And thank you, Nick, for presenting the scheme. I'm Marco Mancini. I'm the Development Manager for Pedro Street, working in the Housing Regeneration and Delivery team. And I'm here as the applicant alongside Claire from Litchfields, our planning consultant, and David from Chargrad and Lewis, our architects. So yeah, just to say, I'm just really pleased to be presenting this Section 73 for a scheme that I think represents a really good news story for Hackney. It's Pedro Street is part of the Housing Supply Programme, which was set up in 2016, which is delivering 50% affordable housing across the programme. And we've already delivered 2 schemes within Kings Park for Oriane Walk and Chowdhury Walk. But Pedro Street is 100% affordable development in an area that's crying out for regeneration. We're delivering 26 much needed homes split between 50% social rent and 50% shared ownership. Since Pedro Street was first consented in 2018, we all know the construction landscape has changed dramatically, and like all other housing schemes, this project's facing industry-wide challenges, increases in cost of construction and borrowing, and massive changes to building regulations. So this is it's making building homes more difficult, all the while we're experiencing a nationwide housing crisis. On top of this, as Nick mentioned, we've had to deal with contamination on site coming from the former boiler house that was once there, which has led to further costs and programme delays. And crucially, we're dealing with all of this without outright sale homes within the scheme to help balance the costs. However, the changes we're presenting, this is not a scheme that has been pared back to make it cheaper to deliver, but worse for future residents. We're presenting a scheme that we think is, well, has been shown and explained by Nick, is improving on the consented scheme in many areas. We've already undertaken pre-construction remediation works to make the site safer and cleaner for the environment and for and for human health. Regarding the building itself, we've improved on the consented scheme to provide better accommodation for future residents. We've reduced the height so that it's no longer designated a high-risk building, and we think that it also sits more comfortably in its location, while also maintaining the exact same number of homes, bedrooms and tenure mix as a consented scheme. We've improved accessibility of the scheme by changing to a single core design to ensure that all homes now have step-free access. We've made the building more sustainable by replacing gas boilers with air source heat pumps, improving the thermal performance and delivering significantly higher carbon savings. We're exceeding urban greening factor with more trees and landscaping and providing more play space than previously proposed. So, and we're also working with a contractor and an excellent consultant team to solve design challenges early, ensuring a higher quality build and cost certainty for the council. And beyond just building homes, we're bringing tangible social, or we will be bringing tangible social value, including apprenticeships and work experience for Hackney residents, while completing Gilpin Square, turning a long-standing empty plot into a more secure, overlooked and active place with landscaping and play on the street. So to summarise, this Section 73 for a scheme that has overcome significant viability, compliance and site-specific challenges around contamination. But despite this, we've done much that improves on the consented scheme, and we'll be delivering 100% affordable scheme that exceeds many sustainability targets and provides well-designed, high-quality social rent and affordable homes. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee. Councillor Desmond, do you get to go first?
Well, congratulations on this scheme. Aesthetically, architecturally, it looks excellent to me. We don't want to build things that we feel ashamed of. We don't want to be embarrassed as we go past looking at them 15 years later, if we happen still to be alive. And looking at the aspirational nature of Hackney, look how well dressed those residents are walking past. So everything is a plus. I'm a little concerned. You know the desperate need we have for social housing. Given that we got this land bucksheed, that this was our land, is there no way we could have 60 or 70% social housing and 30%? Did you calculate this carefully? And is this definitive? It has to be 50-50.
Obviously, we always try and maximise the amount of social housing wherever we can. I think the issue with Pedro Street is having to deal with the contaminated land issue is a huge cost on the project budget. So even maintaining the 50% social housing is quite a challenge, but it's something that we're committed to delivering. We've had a lot of interest for the shared ownership units for this scheme, just because it's in an area of comparably low house prices within Hackney, and we've had a community engagement event where we wrote to all residents to also advertise the fact that we would have our sales team there, so people who were interested in the shared ownership could come and speak to our sales team to see how they could register for future homes. So I think as much as we would like to maximise social housing, I think we are delivering as much as we can within our financial constraints. But also the shared ownership, we think, is a great opportunity to get people kind of started on the housing ladder.
Councillor Potter.
I also kind of really do like the design. It's very, it's quite eye-catching, the kind of different kind of, visage, particularly from the front elevation. And I appreciate as well, I understand the reasons why you had to change the massing, and appreciate that you've also taken the opportunity to also improve with air source heat pumps and accessibility and some of the reasons you mentioned. I didn't capture, sorry. I just want to make sure we commented fully on the feedback from neighbours. So, some of the neighbours were worried about the loss of daylight and sunlight. I know it's in the report, but if you could just talk through that to be helpful. And also, occupants, nearby neighbours being concerned about the local infrastructure and also car parking. I know in terms of noise of building, etc., that's actually not a material consideration, but if you would comment on the other three, please.
Please, thank you.
Of course, my apologies. You can see the cars that are parked here. I'm not going in order, but I've got a photo first. So these are general use parking. Talking to transport officers about it, the preference is to have blue badge spaces rather than general needs car parking. So they don't object to the loss of car parking spaces here. It's a car-free development as well, so it's just those blue badge spaces that are coming in, although you can see that people are parking on the day that I went there. But also, if I can find this one, directly opposite the cars I showed you before is this existing car parking as well, so it's not like there won't be any. But yeah, the council's preference is for car-free development and for blue badge spaces to take priority over general needs parking. I'll use the pictures where I can. You can see that in terms of daylight sunlight, you can see that there's a blank elevation here, which is a 3-story building that has a blank gable end, but it also has some setback deck access. So that's one of the areas where you would have kitchens and they'd be quite overshadowed anyway. Let me see if I've got a better picture for you. So these are the ones that we were looking at here, if you can see that line.
Yeah.
So that deck access, essentially when you're thinking about how daylight sunlight, it's specifically VSC in this case, because these are north-facing windows, but if you're looking at the daylight impacts, they're always going to be greater when there's a balcony because you're looking at the portion of sky that you've got. Now on this development here, you can see that they've got dual aspect, they've got outlook going the other way, but you've also got deck access on this side and deck access on this side here. So essentially what you're looking at is quite low existing levels of sunlight, and the changes are there, but they're not that significant compared to what you'd expect. They're low absolute changes in the VSC. So it's easier if you've got the report in front of you, but what looks like quite a big percentage change on what's existing is quite low, like an 8% VSC, for example. It's quite a big change in percentage terms to take down to 6%, but it's not actually that much of a noticeable change in the real world. So when you're looking at it, there's also two windows here that serve as a stairwell that face directly onto the development. They are like quite badly impacted because it's a stairwell, it doesn't matter. Very few schemes that you'll see, also a youth club here. There are very few schemes that you'll see that have this little impact on daylight sunlight when they're 6 stories, because the surrounding buildings are arranged in such a way as to give much less impact than you would think of a building of this size. To put a full stop on it, the significance of the impact is not any greater than it was at the time of the original approval as well. We do have to think about the extant scheme.
Yeah.
Okay. And your final point?
We talked about car parking, haven't we? Oh, local infrastructure.
Yeah, so this is going to be paid with SIL monies.
Yeah.
There's also Section 106 payments, and we think that the payments that are being made through SIL and Section 106 more than adequately mitigate the impact of the development.
Thank you.
Councillor Sanders.
I had a design question as well. If we could please go back to the lovely example of the outline, the proposal outline. The building, the design, yeah, there we go. That's it. As someone who lives in a block of flats that's jealous of my neighbors with a balcony, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, I think some balconies on this side, but I'm not seeing any on that side of the building. So it might just be me not looking at the right way. Could you please just explain if all balcony access for people?
This is probably the easiest. First, second, and third floors, you can see that they've all got balconies. It's just that when you're looking at it from that way, you can't see the ones that are around to the rear and the side. And then if we go up to the 4th floor, they've all got balconies, and then the 5th floor as well. All of them do. They're well sized as well.
The last thing was, I saw in the other picture the close proximity between Pedro Youth Club and where the building's going to be.
Yeah.
Is there like, have you had a chat with them about noise and like will there be any interruption during the building work and during the process and anything in between that?
I haven't. There is a reason for that, which is that they're having their own building work done very soon as well. My colleague is currently looking at either a pre-application or an application. Hopefully it's an application for Pedro Street Youth Club. Yeah, I mean, we can't refuse applications generally on the construction noise that happens. It's considered to be something that is part of living in a big city. The construction of this building would be the end of an empty site for a long time, and yeah, a 6-story building would go up relatively quickly, and I'm sure that the benefits of having a building there might outweigh the temporary construction harm.
Anything from the applicant team? No.
Yeah, we do have quite regular meetings with the Pedro Club and the people in charge of the potential refurbishment work. So we discussing whether there may be some ways of, you know, especially if there are 2 sites on site at the same time, how 2 contractors could try and minimise the disruption, and even some if there's a potential for social value in terms of pooling the social value resources, if it's sequential, whether someone can move from one scheme to the other to kind of extend their apprenticeship or work experience. So yeah, there's regular contact.
Good to know. Any other questions? Councillor Sudden?
Thanks, Chair. I've got a couple of questions. The first one was about the mix of units. We've talked about tenure mix, but I just wondered about how we arrived at the number of different size units in terms of bedrooms. I saw that there are only 3 out of 26, which are 3-bedroom units, and obviously, well, we need units of all sizes, but we're desperate for more family-size homes as well. I'm conscious that in the last planning meeting we had an application for 9 3-bed homes just around the corner, so that's fantastic. But in relation to this application, I just wondered how you arrived at the view that this was the optimal mix, and how far that was connected to the point you made about maximising sale of some of the properties, some of the premises. And then the second point was a sort of community question. In some of the pictures you showed us, committee members would have seen the mural that had been if you go back a couple of slides. So along this board in here, which has sat in the ward for a while, as part of a project that took place in this area, Mandeville Street and Mandeville and surrounding streets, the MASS project. This mural was put together with the help of an artist, but also a number of members of the community came together to decorate this. And in various places, it sort of illustrates the value of the Pedro Club just over the road to the community, which is especially important to this area of the borough just now, given that James Cook, who ran the Pedro Club for a long time, has passed away. So something that we talked about as part of these conversations was being able to retain in some way aspects of the mural in the development. I just wondered how, whether thought has been given to that, and whether designers have any suggestion, can tell us a bit about how that will be carried forward. Thank you.
Thanks. I might ask you to come in on why you've chosen the housing mix, but just in planning terms, it's the same housing mix as the extant scheme that they could build at any point. So we do have to bear that in mind. In terms of whether it's the optimal for this particular development, I think you also have to remember the fact that we've moved from one scheme that was approved to another scheme because of building control regulations effectively squashing it down by 2 stories to 6 stories, and then you've got essentially a shape of a building that can house a certain amount of units, and you probably don't want to lose any units either. So there's that side of it. But from a planning point of view, it would be difficult to object to because we've approved it before. But in terms of why you've chosen it, maybe I'll let you speak on that.
I can't answer why originally it was this tenure mix, this bedroom mix, but I think, as Nick said, we've tried to keep the scheme. Reducing the height, it was difficult enough to kind of retain the number of units, but the design team have worked really, really hard to ensure that that we're able to keep the same number of units and the same number of bedrooms as the previous consented scheme. I think, yeah, if we were to increase the number of bedrooms, we would have to reduce the number of units. So I think we were trying to maximise the number of social rented units that we're delivering, and also keep as close as possible to the consented scheme.
And the mural, it's a nice idea. Any talk about the mural?
The mural, yes. I think this is, we've spoken to the Pedra Club as well. I think they said they would like to keep maybe some of the panels and somehow incorporate that within their landscaping. I think for our landscaping, it'll be quite difficult because we wouldn't want to, we're trying to avoid having walls or fencing to kind of to reduce the permeability of the development. I know there's a fence which separates this development with the gardens behind. But again, I mean, originally we were looking at trying to open it out so that we could have a big shared garden area, but residents in the other buildings were against that. So we're maintaining the fence, but I think we still want to keep a kind of feeling of permeability between it, and rather than putting up a physical or a kind of an opaque barrier. But I think in terms of having, we've got photos and of the hoarding, and I know Councillor Patrick was talking about whether we could have pictures within the building of the murals. So I think that's something that we would definitely consider.
I mean, if they could be reused or kept as opposed to just, instantly bulldozed, and maybe offered to the club so that they could put them, maybe they might be useful. We're a big fan of reuse, recycle. You think that might happen, that it could be used?
Yeah, it sounds like the club are already having conversations.
All right.
I think one thing the hoarding has been there for quite a long time, so we're having to do some site investigations to ensure that it's still that it will last the whole construction period, because we want to make sure it's safe. And yeah, whatever we do, we'll try and keep some, at least document them, and if we can, try and keep the hoarding up as long as possible. And if we can, then donate the hoarding to the well, maybe it can then be used for their hoarding as well.
Yes, that's a very nice idea. Seems to not falling apart. Lovely. Any other questions from the committee? No. So in that circumstance, we'll go to the recommendation summary. Grant Planning Commission subject to conditions and a deed of variation to the unilateral undertaking. Those in favour, please show. That's lovely.
So that is unanimous.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Lovely. Right, we'll move on to agenda item 6. Would you all like to shuffle around, please? I'm not going to hurry you, but just tell me when you're ready to go. Yeah. So just, yeah. You good? Is everyone ready? Then we'll move on to agenda item 6, please. Rectory Road. Off you go.
Yep. So this is item 6. It's planning application 2025-1208 at Rectory Road, otherwise known as the Morris Blitz Estates, and it is for the construction of 19 units within a 5-storey apartment block. Here is the site location plan, and it shows Rectory Road to the east, Folding Road to the north, Amherst Road to the west, and Farley Road to the south. This is just a slightly wider context. You can see the site is here with the start, and it's just to the west of Hackney Downs Park. It has a PTR score of 3. It's not within any conservation area. There is a locally listed building just around the corner on Rectory Road. And the nearest overland station is Rectory Road Station, Overland, which is just off the screen to the north. Here is a more detailed site location plan, but I'll go into more detail about the site in the next slide. Okay, so this shows the current site. Just to note at the bottom here, you'll see in more detail in photos in a minute, that this is an old housing office which belonged to the council, which had been vacant for about 15 years and recently gained permission to be demolished and has been removed. So you'll see in a bit that that's not there anymore. But essentially what you have is the Morris Blitz estate, which is 6 stories. At ground floor, it's used for storage, and 5 stories above are apartments. There is a private podium in the middle here at first floor level, which is only for the existing residents and can only be accessed via that building. You also have this lawn to the west of the site here, which is currently inaccessible to the existing residents. Also, on the corner of Amherst Road and Farley Road here is Bastion House. This is a 5-story apartment block. This is just a view looking south. Again, this is a view of Morris Blitz estate from Farley Road. So you can see here, this is where the old council housing office used to be, and it's now removed. Here's Bastion House. Oops. And these are the row of houses to the south along Farley Road. So the proposal, it is a 5-story development. It's for 19 units. This consists of 9 1-bed, 5 2-bed, and 5 3-bed apartments. 2 of them are M43 wheelchair accessible, so roughly 11%. All 19 units are socially rented, so it's a 100% affordable scheme. The site also provides 40 bicycle storage spaces. There is 1 blue badge parking bay on Farley Road to the south. It has a BNG score of 18.55, and it also has an acceptable UGF score of 0.43. And it is proposed to be a very sustainable scheme as well, with over an 80% carbon reduction, which mostly comes through the PV panels and the exhaust air heat pump. So next, we have the proposed site plan. So you can see here, this is showing the ground floor and the wider sites. And you can see that the building is actually going to be attached to the south here of the Morris Blitz estate. There will be a new access road coming off Farley Road here, and this will result in the loss of 1 existing tree. There will be a gated access into the estate to prevent any random cars or servicing and delivery just being able to come in. There will be 13 new trees proposed. This whole central area is basically open space and play area for the existing residents. And importantly, what this scheme will be introducing is direct access from the ground floor courtyard up to the podium at first floor level. And this will be through this new staircase here. And also one of the fun features of the site is that there is also a proposed slide for the kids over there on the west. There's also a new substation to be proposed in the corner here. And the cycle storage will be located in the western side of the storage area of the existing Morris Blitz estate, just here. So this is just a closer look at the proposed ground floor. Entrance would be off Farley Road here and would allow direct access into the courtyard to the back. we've got waste storage here, and then access up to the units above. Also, both of the wheelchair accessible units are located at ground floor level here and here. The upper floor units across each floor is basically the same. They are all accessed via deck access here, the walkway, and they will have their outdoor amenity spaces, their balconies to the south. This is just the floors again, going up to the 4th floor. And then we have the roof plan, which shows space for PV panels and also a green roof here. These are just some of the proposed elevations. And again, this is the elevation that will be facing onto the courtyard. And we have some proposed CGIs. So you can see the material is to be mostly a lighter brick with a darker red at ground floor. You can also see over here in the corner the gated access to the courtyard. It is important to note as well that delivery and servicing is to be from the street rather than actually into the courtyard, to ensure that the courtyard is almost entirely used as a public space rather than for traffic. Here is a view of the scheme looking west, and you can see its connection to the existing Morris Blitz estate here. And this is looking east, and you can see it in relation to the Bastion House existing building here. Next up, we have a proposed landscape scheme, just showing some different details. So you have some soft landscaping around the play areas. This is all hard landscaping as well. You can see the slide as mentioned before. There's also to be a new access gate here to allow entrance into this western lawn area, which is currently inaccessible. This is just the proposed elevation showing the different features in the courtyard. So again, the stairwell, the slide, there's also a small climbing frame here as well. And here is a CGI of the proposed courtyard. And then finally, we just have some isometric views again, showing the proposed building in relation to Morris Blitz and the adjacent buildings. So here's the Morris Blitz estate. Here is the proposed development here, the proposed development again here. In terms of impact on neighboring amenity, particularly in terms of lights, the scheme does have a modest impact, but really, given the scale of it and its relationship to existing apartments, it's surprisingly modest. There is some impact to these internal windows here, which serve kitchens and bedroom windows, and there's also some impact to the flats of basement and ground floor level to the south here. But overall, the impact on neighbours is relatively modest. And that's really it for now, the conclusions. It's a well-designed scheme in terms of its appearance. It has a good mix of houses in terms of its sizes and bedroom numbers. It's 100% social rented accommodation, good standards of accommodation, good biodiversity and interactive play areas, and it's a sustainable development. So therefore, we are recommending it for approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Before we get to the questions, we have 5 minutes for the applicant to talk about other aspects about how great the scheme is.
Jane, I was just going to say that microphone you've got there is not very good, so you may want to either use the one to your left or your right.
See if we can make that work. Great, thank you. Good evening, Chair and councillors. I'm Jane Harverman. I'm Head of Housing Delivery North in the Housing Regeneration and Delivery team. I'm here with the wider project team and also speaking in place of Will Greatrex, who should be here but is sadly for us on holiday. And he leads on both the Morris Splits project, which is agenda item 7, as well as agenda item 8. So just very briefly, I just wanted to say we're really proud to be introducing these 2 schemes to Planning Committee this evening. These are the second and third schemes from the New Homes programme to come to Planning Subcommittee after my Bevan last month. The New Homes programme is delivering 400 new homes in total across the programme, across 14 sites on Hackney's housing land, and delivering 75% social rent homes to address the acute housing crisis in Hackney. So these 2 schemes represent 37 new high quality social rent homes in total. So that's 19 at Morris Splits and 18 at Blackwell Close. I'll hand over to Carl Buchanan, Director at Archeo, to talk more about Morris Splits.
Thank you, Jane. Good evening, councillors. I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about these proposals for 19 new social rent homes in Stoke Newington Ward. Stoke Newington Ward is actually the ward that I live and work in, and it's been a genuine privilege to work with councillors, residents and officers on these homes, and feel like we're having a really positive impact on my own local community. These homes, which are delivered in a single block, are designed to Passive House standards, which councillors may know is a very ambitious low energy standard. It's also very good for residents who live in these homes. It provides excellent living conditions. We're providing a mix of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes on the site, which exceed nationally prescribed space standards by around 5% across the board. The new building forms part of the existing estate, and so it's been very important that it's integrated with the estate, both in terms of the architecture, but also, of course, with the residents. So we're delivering a number of landscape improvements, enhancing biodiversity, delivering a net increase of 12 trees on the site. We're providing play space, and we're also making improvements to some of the existing facilities like bin stores. In terms of urban design, the existing building sits quite loosely on what was a bomb site and has these very baggy spaces around the edge, which provide green space but are not able to be accessed or used by residents at the moment. The way that we're positioning and have designed the new building, we're, as you can see in this image, completing the street along Farley Road, but also importantly completing the courtyard for residents. And what that means is that we can connect this raised upper area, which just flashed up on the screen a minute ago, to the lower area and give residents, existing residents, direct access to a much larger proportion of the green space on the site, so really delivering benefit to them. They can access that, as the case officer has said, via a slide, via a climbing wall, or perhaps more conventionally by some steps. They can also walk around and achieve level access through the front of the proposed building. In terms of the architecture, it's a simple brick building that will be built using high quality materials and high quality detailing. The main entrance to the block sits on the street. You can see it in the image here. The front doors to the homes actually face onto the courtyard, which follows the existing arrangement, so that all of the residents, the existing and the new, also have the same relationship to the courtyard. So it's a courtyard for everybody, not just for the new residents.
1 minute.
Thank you. The balconies face south over the street and form this kind of colonnaded feature along the streets, which will provide both interest as well as shading for residents. We've worked very closely with existing residents. We've had 3 public engagement events during the course of our instruction, and Hackney officers have worked more informally with a number of residents over a longer period. Many of the ideas in the scheme, and particularly in the landscape, have come directly from residents themselves, and we've welcomed that as part of the process. It's a very ambitious scheme in terms of sustainability, 81% reduction on-site regulated carbon emissions. Renewable energy is generated from photovoltaic panels on the roof and exhaust air heat pumps. We've looked very carefully at overheating. There's a biodiversity net gain of 18.55%, and we're exceeding the urban greening factor. Overall, it's a scheme that will deliver 19 much needed social rent homes to Hackney, and we think deliver real improvements for existing as well as new residents. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. To the committee, Councillor Potter.
To be consistent with the, my previous comments in the previous planning committee, I mean, what's not to like? I was going to say the same kind of thing. All social housing of a good quality, passive house, which is really, really exciting that the council is going down this route, because I'm sure there's been lots of learning, but you know, real positive benefits, both in terms of sustainability and, you know, and us kind of driving these changes forward throughout London and the country as well. It's great that you've got this offer to existing residents, that you're actually going to improve the outdoor space. I noticed there were, and you've obviously done lots of consultation and work. I noticed there was some comments about worries about loss of existing space. So I just wondered, really, after the consultation, has that kind of satisfied those kind of fears? Or I don't know if you could give any comments on that at all.
Do you mean outdoor space on the estate?
Yeah, I mean, it does say loss of existing open space. I mean, I know the previous area wasn't accessible anyway, was it? So that's not being lost, but I don't know whether those conversations have calmed any fears that any residents have, noting that it was only 1 or 2 objections, but you also had supportive letters too.
So there's quite a large net increase of outdoor open space on the, there will be quite a large net increase in outdoor open space that residents can access. The existing building is built largely on the footprint of the existing estate office. So whilst there is a small loss of green space that you can see in the image in front of us here, the key thing for councillors to understand is that the whole area to the west of the site is currently gated and inaccessible to residents, and that will be opened up. And that's possible because we're creating a new, thank you, because we're creating a new secure perimeter at the south of the site. One of the other things that we heard from residents is that there is a lot of antisocial behaviour in this lower area at the moment. I won't go into the details in this forum, but you can imagine. And you know, the hope is very much that by putting this building here and by making that secure, that we will remove those issues.
Be overlooking a more activity,
exactly,
etc. So I'm just hoping that you know, you're able, that those residents who were worried have been, you know, realised that actually it's quite a bonus in terms of the offer. Really, I suppose, is what I'm saying. That's the way it certainly appears to me.
Could I just jump in quickly? Sorry, just in response to that objection about the loss of open space. It was a slightly weird objection to receive. Obviously, because we received it, I'm bound to put it in my report, but just to reiterate, the scheme is delivering over 600 square meters of open space and lots of play space, and improving the quality of that space as well, considerably against what it is currently, and making it more secure. So I think it should be fine.
I just think it's important that because we, you know, we have the feedback, so we need to voice what residents have stated.
No,
so, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Somerville?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say, first of all, how beautiful the design looks, and the whole vision as well is absolutely amazing. So just really just kept writing a lot of yes, yes, yes as the presentation was going. So 100% behind this, and it's absolutely brilliant. Me and Matt are not friends, so I was wondering if you could just clarify several percentages I heard. You mentioned something about 75% earlier. And in the presentation, this is 100% affordable. So just to clarify for myself, is this the 75% related to this, or is that like overall something else? That's the first one. And the second one, again, I'm really nitpicking here to try and find anything, because overall it's such an amazing initiative. The slide, what material would be made out of? And underneath where the children or whoever's going into is, you know, falling into, what material would also be there on the ground? And could it be a swing instead of a slide?
So there's 19 units. It's 100% affordable housing, and it's 100% social rented housing. So all the units are social rented. In terms of the slide material, Can't say for sure yet, but the materials and all the play equipment is conditioned. So that will come through later on, and is there any particular material you're looking for? And in terms of a swing, no swing has been proposed, I'm afraid.
Councillor Potter.
Just a comment to add, it's good to see that you've got 5 bedroom homes as well. I noticed you've got more single bed homes in terms of 9. Could you just comment on that, you know, the way you came up with that ratio?
Yeah, of course, and that's a very good point. I think the thing to understand about the existing estate is there are around 50 homes on the existing estate, of which 38 are 3-bedroom family homes. And so we've got 9 1-bedroom homes, a little under half. That is important for a number of reasons, but I think practically what it means is that there is an opportunity for downsizing of existing residents. So we actually hopefully will have a bigger impact than just the homes that we're providing, and we'll then free up more family homes within the estate. And it's a very, bluntly cost-efficient way to do that.
I think that's really, really good, because it means that existing residents who like living, the estate has been their home, they're able to stay on the estate and have a more manageable space. So yeah, it's freeing up homes for families as well, like you say, if they do downsize.
Can I just add, in relation to the number of 3-bed homes across the new homes program as a whole, we're looking to deliver a third, so between 33 and 36% 3-bed homes across the new homes program as a whole. There is obviously a sort of scheme by scheme kind of difference across different projects. And on percentages, I may have confused things because I mentioned 75%. That's 75% social rent across the new homes program. But as the case officer stated, it's 100% social rent at Morris Splits.
Councillor Narcos first.
Yeah, no, as everyone else has said, I really like this. I think it's a really nice looking scheme. I really like the fact that you've, improved the kind of the amenity space for existing residents, and I hope that when other applications come forward from this new homes program, it has similarly thoughtful contributions to the existing residents as well. My question was a very quick one, really. I really like the slide. I'd missed that in the first photo. It was just about the new bit of green spaces being opened up. Is that, I think, based on the photo, it's all just currently grass at the moment. Is there going to be any sort of additional landscaping done to that bit, or is it just going to be left as the green space as it is?
Sorry, there's a bit of feedback on the mic, but I understood the question to be, is there going to be any additional landscaping to the area of the west of the site?
Yes, so the west side, is that just staying kind of turfed as it is, or is there going to be any landscaping done to that bit?
It is largely going to be left as it is. I mean, it's actually a very high quality space. It's got some really lovely mature trees and some lawned area, which, Hackney's maintenance team mow on a regular basis. So I think actually there's, it's got a lot of benefit as it is, and that's allowed us to then concentrate the investment in play equipment in that courtyard, where it's between all the homes, and really, you can look over and watch your kids playing in the courtyard is the idea.
Thanks, Chair. I had 2 questions that I wanted to ask. One of them was about cycle parking. I think I heard a reference during the presentation to there being an indoor cycling provision of 20 spaces. No, was it 40 spaces? All right, okay. There's the answer. And then the second part of that question was going to be whether does that already exist to some extent, or is that entirely new? And if it's entirely new, is it only for the residents of the new block, or is it for everyone? Because presumably it's not sufficient for everyone.
So the 40 spaces are for the new residents for this block, because obviously planning policy requires us to provide a set amount of parking spaces for the new residents. So those 40 spaces will only be for the new residents, and they will be, just to show you where they'll be located, they'll be here in the storage area of the existing Morris Splits estate. So they'll be there. So they'll be covered and they'll be underground and secured. Further details of that arrangement are to come through the conditions. But in terms of providing new cycle parking spaces for existing residents, that doesn't form part of this application. No.
And are you able to take that point of it not being part of this application, but, you know, seeing as you're making a number of changes to the shared spaces, what's the cycling provision at the moment for residents that live there? And is this an opportunity whilst you're doing these works to, you know, in keeping with the council's policies on trying to promote cycling, to put something for the 50 units that are already there?
I don't know how many cycle spaces are there for the existing residents. There's possibly some scattered around the northern part of the road, but I couldn't tell you for sure. Okay. But we can ask the applicant, yes, if they know.
Cycle storage has not particularly come up as an issue with existing residents. What I can say is that we are adding a number of visitors' cycling spaces to the north of the existing Morris Splits building. So we are improving so there are 2 locations by each of the cores where I believe we're adding 10 spaces in each location for visitors. So that's an outdoor Sheffield stand, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. My other question was about delivery and servicing. I think it's on Farley Road, but outside the parameters of the block. Is that understood correctly? Rather than as currently going into the, it looks like quite a small street from the pictures that we've seen. I just wonder if you can talk us through the assessment of the suitability of that for deliveries and servicing for the whole enlarged estate.
I'm not entirely sure how to respond. Yeah, delivery and servicing, the plan has always been to be, okay, well, I've been told to pass it on to our highways experts. I'll do that.
Hiya. Yeah, I think it's a very good question. In terms of the delivery and servicing impact, we really have scrutinised this application in really extensive detail, and I think in particular the interaction between vehicles coming on site. We kind of made a lot of inquiries about that to really gain a proper understanding. The main point to understand is that I think it's 19 residential units. The level of trip generation that should be generating is in general is considered to have a negligible impact on the highway network. So it's not something that we were overly concerned with. We did have a lot of other transport concerns that we kind of ran through, and things like including the requirement of a road safety audit to be conducted for the vehicular access came up. But delivery and servicing is relatively proportionate with the 19 residential dwellings. It doesn't raise too much concern, although it's worth noting that we've requested to condition a delivery and servicing plan as a sort of belt and braces approach, and obviously we would ensure that once that comes through as a kind of additional detail, we would want to make sure that any measures to further consolidate delivery and servicing and minimize those trips, and also use more active and sustainable methods of transport, we would be ensuring that happens through the condition process.
Thank you. Councillor Potter.
Given the area, the building's going to be more in a kind of courtyard shape, and though it's not completely enclosed, got gaps. I just wondered, would you give any thought to the way that sound kind of goes around when lots of people are kind of enjoying that kind of green space? Certainly on some other experiences of a state in my own ward with the sound kind of vibrating. Have you given any thought at all to the way that the sound, and just to avoid creating any friction, type situations between different residents on the estate? It might be because the shape's quite different to what I've experienced, so that might not apply. So you can tell me that, but I just wondered whether any thought had been given.
You're right about the shape. That does make a difference to the way that sound travels around the courtyard. I think the couple of things that are important to emphasise: there is existing play space at the upper level in the courtyard. So there is an established use in this courtyard of children playing out, and certainly when we visited with residents, there's lots of, you know, those trikes and wheelie things left around the courtyard, which I think is always a kind of good sign. There's a couple of quite large mature trees in the middle of the lower courtyard as well, which we will be very carefully retaining, and they'll have an important role in mitigating any sound. So it's not something that's come up as an issue with residents, and we don't think it will be an issue once built.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the committee? If we have no other questions, let's move it to a vote, which is a recommendation summary. We grant conditional planning permission subject to completion of a unilateral undertaking. Those in favour, please show. And that's unilateral. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Unilateral.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Be moving to agenda item 7. Does anyone need to move? Just you and Nick. Just say when you're ready. I'm not. Yeah, everything.
Yep,
Good?
perfect.
Is everyone all right? Everyone ready? Okay, then we'll have agenda item 7, please. Alex, off you go.
So this is item number 7 is planning application 2025/1682, and it's at garages of Blackwell Close, and it proposes to demolish the existing garages and construct a Part 3, Part 5 story building to provide 18 social rented units. It is noted that following the publication of the committee papers, a number of landscape drawings and the fire statement were amended. 2 letters of support were also received, one from Kings Park Ward councillors Sharon Patrick and Councillor Lynn Troughton, and one from the board of Clapton Park Management Association. There were also some minor amendments to some conditions as set out in the addendum. So onto the site, it's located on the northern side of Redwood Road. It lies between Derby Court to the west and Blackwell Close to the north and the east. The surrounding area is characterised by predominantly residential uses ranging in height from 2 to 6 stories in a mixture of dwelling types, including terraces and apartment blocks. So in this image, you can see to the west, on the left of this image, is Derby Court, and to the north and the east are Blackwell Close. And this is another view of the site, just looking south towards Redwood Road. So the site currently comprises 33 single-storey garages, as well as a community garden. It is currently sunken below Redwood Road, and pedestrian access is via a set of stairs to the east of the site or via Pedro Street to the north. Vehicular access is provided to the west of the site. This is just another view of the existing garages, which is looking north. And this is the view of the stairs to Redwood Road. The site is located within the Lee Valley Priority Archaeological Area, and a small portion of the site is located within a flood zone. It's not in a conservation area and does not comprise any listed buildings. So the application proposes an 100% social rent scheme to be delivered as part of the council's new homes program. Landscape and public realms improvements are also proposed, located along Blackwell Close and Redwood Road, and the community garden will be provided in the northeast corner of the site. The scheme will also deliver new step-free access with a ramp from Redwood Road, as well as widened steps from Redwood Road. So the application proposes a mix of units, 1, 2 and 3 bed, totaling 18. All units are provided with balconies facing north or south. At ground floor level, there are 2 M43 accessible units. The remaining units will all be M42 accessible and adaptable, and there are 4 units per core. So the first and second floor plans are identical, and then you've got the reduced third and fourth floor plans. The building will have a biodiverse, extensive green roof with PV panels. The scheme will deliver a biodiversity net gain of 86%, urban greening factor of 0.3, and a carbon saving of 81%. So the building height has been carefully considered with those of its surroundings, including the adjacent height of Derby Court to the west and Blackwell Close to the north and east. Along Redwood Road, as can be seen in the elevation at the bottom, the massing positively reinforces the building line, whilst also enhancing visibility and legibility of the site. There is a setback on this elevation, and this expression of the building with the open balconies creates relief, so it does not appear too overbearing in its context. So the materials as proposed include rough cast render for the majority of the facade, with smooth scrape render above and below the windows and doors, as well as precast concrete elements, metalwork for balconies, and glazed ceramic tiles around the entrance. Whilst concerns about the durability and quality of the proposed render are noted, the scheme provides significant public benefits, which on balance are considered sufficient to outweigh these concerns. The material proposed is not considered sufficient to warrant withholding planning permission. So overall, the developer is considered to successfully optimise the use of the site, providing a sustainable building that delivers good quality residential units. The scheme would result in a positive development on an underutilised site by delivering a fully social building with improvements to the public realm, a community garden, different character play areas, as well as improvements to BNG and carbon savings. All other material planning considerations have been covered within the report. Officers therefore recommend that planning permission be granted subject to conditions and a legal agreement.
Thank you. To the applicant, 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillors, and thank you, Alex, for presenting. My name is Michaela Oberhuber. I'm the planning consultant for this project. We'd like to highlight the key benefits of the proposals again, which we have developed closely with officers over the past few months. We are proposing 18 new social rent homes, including a balanced mix of 1 and 2 beds and 4 family-sized 3-bed homes. 2 of the homes are fully wheelchair accessible, and this provides a meaningful contribution to local housing need as part of the council's new homes program, which Jane outlined earlier. The proposals also significantly improve the existing site, which currently has steep level changes, inactive frontages, and poor legibility. The new layout introduces stepped and ramp access, more inclusive routes, improved lighting, and a welcoming frontage onto Redwood Road. Alongside increased natural surveillance and defensible space, these measures also help address existing safety concerns at the site. Landscape and public realm are also greatly enhanced with new planting, trees, and natural play. The community garden is re-provided in the northeast corner as part of the shared amenity space with dedicated planting beds in a well-overlooked and accessible location. The development also delivers over 100 square meters of play space for all age groups and achieves a biodiversity net gain of over 80%, far exceeding the 10% requirement. Energy and sustainability have been central throughout the design process. The homes are highly energy efficient, supported by air source heat pumps, mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, and a biosolar roof. These measures reduce regulated carbon emissions by over 80% and ensure low water use and full compliance with overheating standards. Finally, impacts on daylight and sunlight, overshadowing, air quality, noise, and traffic have all been fully assessed and are considered acceptable for an urban infill development that delivers significant public realm improvements and new social rent homes. I will now hand over to our project architect, Jonathan, from Algerard Pike to talk about the design in a bit more detail.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just start by saying, as an office, kind of as part of our involvement in the New Homes programme, building on our partnership with Hackney Council on the delivery of Chowbury Walk and Torian Walk, kind of a stone's throw away from the Blackwell Close garage site. The proposals for the site have been shaped by kind of consultations with existing residents, the TMO, Clapham Park Management, the Metropolitan Police regarding kind of security, given kind of some of the issues with unsocial behaviour in the area, and also kind of the local residents community group, kind of working within the existing community garden, which is currently located on the south of the site, and as part of the development, we're re-providing it as part of the provision. So the building, in terms of its massing and scale, looks to replicate kind of the urban grain of the larger apartment blocks, kind of orientated north to south. Height of 5 stories matching the height of Derby Court to the west, stepping down to 3 stories to the north to align with the heights of Blackwell Close to the north and east. The raised plinth kind of provides defence against flood levels. The site, northern eastern part of the site is located within the flood zone. That provides the residential entrance, and as kind of mentioned earlier, improved accessibility from Blackwell Close up to Redwood Road. The approach to kind of accommodation is a mix of dwellings, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Central core approach with kind of east and west facing habitable rooms to maximize daylight given constraints of the site. The primary facade materials in a 3-colored render, complemented with precast concrete elements and contrasting metalwork. And I guess just to say that, yeah, delivering 100% affordable homes, 18 dwellings, as well as kind of wider improvements to the public realm and landscape for the re-provision of the community garden and play on the way.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee? I'd like to start us off. Councillor Potter.
Suppose it'd be good to address both officers and yourselves to address, you know, the Hackney Society planning concern comments, where they talked about that they think the proposal too large for this site. The concerns regarding loss of light. I know you talk about the balance, and I appreciate that, but it'd be good if you could talk to those, please, and particularly Derby Court to the west of the site. And then they go on to say that the proposed building would be overbearing to properties to the west and north with loss of privacy in both directions. If you could talk to that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first thing I will deal with is daylight sunlight. So we're confident or happy with the daylight and sunlight impacts in terms of the impacts that they will have on Derby Court to the west. So this is the building that is the closest and the most impacted by this. So looking at the daylight sunlight impact, the majority of windows do pass the daylight sunlight test. I note that in the objection from Hackney Society, they do talk about the 25-degree plane test, but there is a bit more, when you're looking at daylight sunlight, there is a bit more intensive testing that does happen. So looking across the test, there's a high number of windows that do actually pass the test. I can get the property up if that's easier for you. Where's a picture of it? So if you look at this, can you see my cursor? So this is the property here that we're talking about. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. Can anyone see that coming up? I'm drawing little dots. Can anyone see the green dots on the right-hand side? So basically this building it's the building, the picture on the right. Derby Court is the building kind of to the right of the property. So it's in the far right corner of the screen. So the separation distance between this building is tight. So it's 14 metres and there are relatively low levels of daylight already received in this building. So the most impacted windows will be at ground level, but they already receive really low levels of daylight. So one way of looking at a tight site like this is doing a mirror massing test. And the mirror massing test found that all but the ground floor windows in the southern part of that site, so I think there were 3 rooms affected in ground floor that didn't pass those tests when looking at the mirror massing test. So on balance, looking at out of 89 windows, there were only 3 rooms that didn't pass. So on a tight site like this in an urban setting, that is considered to result in acceptable levels of daylight sunlight. When looking at the other properties around, there are greater separation distances, so 15 metres to the north and 28 metres to the east. And in terms of the impacts on the daylight sunlight, they would be negligible. I forgot the next question that you asked. Sorry.
I think it was linked to what you said. Hang on. They kind of put it in 2 sections. So they talked about 25-degree plane, but they talked about the overbearing properties to the west and north. Overbearingness.
Yeah. Sorry, to answer that question. So again, looking at it is again to do with the separation distances. So the one that we were most concerned with is the properties to the north, because obviously they do have their rear gardens there, and there is a 3-storey element has been designed, as you can see with that setback 5th floor, as a result of to ensure that that is a comfortable and appropriate distance. So the distance from the rear of those boundaries is 5 metres to the 3-storey element, and then again the 5th-storey element has been set back. But the distance from those windows is 15 metres, which again in this urban setting, I appreciate the site is tight, but it is considered an acceptable on balance looking at the scheme. It is also worth noting that we have not had any objections in regard to daylight sunlight from any of these properties. And I don't know if you want the applicant to add anything to that.
You comment on those points made by Hackney Society.
Yeah, I think just to echo those points, I think initially when we were working through the massing studies, we were working very closely with the environmental engineers to analyse the kind of daylighting conditions both of the existing and of the new residents, given the tightness of the site and the proximity to the neighbouring properties. And yeah, as I said, we found the right balance in achieving kind of acceptable levels, both existing and new residents. And similarly to that condition to the north, making sure that the building is set back and kind of tight enough to provide enough outlook and kind of space to the sky, as well as not too many openings on that facade to provide overlooking and privacy issues onto those community spaces and dwelling.
Can you talk about a little bit more both on the added value to the existing residents? I kind of heard talk about lighting and a little bit about landscaping, but I didn't feel the bigness of kind of an increased offer. Maybe I'm just not picking up on that. And it'd just be really good to know the kind of conversations you were having with local residents. I couldn't see it in the report, sorry if I've missed it, I apologise, but what kind of concerns in those conversations were you hearing? It's just really good to know, and what positive feedback you also might have got from your talking to residents.
Hi, I'm Harrison Brown, the development officer sitting in for the development manager, Will Great-Rex. One of the key elements that we've been trying to put into this design to create added value for existing residents is the reprovisioning of the community garden. So the Clapton Park estate has a really brilliant network of community allotment and community gardening spaces, and so we've been not only working very closely with the TMO, but also with one of the community gardeners who works specifically on this site, Mel White. In conversation with her, we've sort of devised additional strategies to grow momentum around sort of community gardening in the area and bringing more of those existing residents to become closer to, more in touch with the nature that's being provided on site. And that's been integrated into some of the landscape proposals that we've put into this scheme. Many of the local residents of the neighbouring houses use the community garden as it stands already to grow vegetables and fruits, and just also enjoy the public space that is there at the sort of south side by Redwood Road. And that's something that's really been a core design element that I think we've been pulling through as the applicant, in sort of conversation with existing residents. But I'll pass to the architect as well to discuss.
Yeah, I guess just to add to Harrison's point, the reprovision of the community garden was part of the brief, and kind of a key element within the kind of design of the site layout. Speaking with residents with regards to the community garden, their assets were kind of a key concern for them in terms of retaining them. So we've retained some of their existing planters within the new proposals, as well as the pergolas. The existing community garden was quite restricted and closed off. So the idea is to make it kind of more accessible, not only to that existing community that use it, but to the wider area. In terms of other improvements, the access route, the north-south route from Blackwell Close up to Redwood Road is widely used, but the stairs that are currently there are in quite poor condition. So kind of using the plinth as a way to improve the accessibility and wheelchair users, families with buggies, to kind of have accessible access up to Redwood Road, whilst providing kind of a more softer landscape along that route. At the moment, it's a lot of hard standing surfaces. So kind of the introduce of landscaping and natural play elements make that a much more pleasant space and thoroughfare, kind of coming down from Redwood Road through to Blackwell Close and Bedroom. So the community garden is located in the northeast part of the site. So in the top right.
So yeah, it's a combination. Yeah, there's sort of stacked green boxes, and then also the green bits at the top. It's spread around there, and we're sort of removing some of those planters that are in the existing garden. They're being repurposed out there. Wilson talks, there's a really beautiful shed that they've been using that's sort of this like handicrafted piece, and a really beautiful iron wrought gate that one of the local residents previously made. So we're also repurposing those details so that there's a piece of that beloved community space existing within the community garden that we're repurposing.
Yeah, Councillor Samatar.
Just to let you know, I've now worked out how to do it, and I have circled the community garden, so that is where it is. Yes, you just use your finger.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, team. This is, again, another thing that just makes me happy. So this is brilliant. Thank you so much for all the effort that went on to this, to everyone involved. On this picture here, we see green, which is beautiful. When you showed us the final image on looking at the building from the other side, it was just a lot of gray on this side. So I was wondering if yes, now there's a lot more green on this side, but on the other side, it's less so, yeah. So I was wondering if you could just explain if there'll be a lot more green in terms of the design itself.
So in terms of the colour of the building or
Not the
planting,
colour
or
of the building, yeah, the trees, would there be any more trees on behind it, like on the other side?
I think it's probably best if I show from this angle now that I can explain to you. So if you look at the front here, so this is the new ramped access that will be provided to Redwood Road that will provide step-free access into Clapton Park estate. And if you look just behind it, there are planters that pretty much go around the full length of the Redwood Road frontage, and that does wrap around to the front of that. But in terms of providing trees to that frontage, it's just not possible if including that ramp, which is considered, I think, a very big public benefit to providing level access there. The trees that are provided are more within the site itself. And in terms of the way that the building, I think, presents to the street, it's infilling a gap that is currently, it does have the community garden to the front, but it's infilling a gap within the street frontage that does kind of increase the legibility of that. So whilst there are less trees on this side, there will be, on the Redwood Road frontage, there will be planters and the ramp.
Brilliant. Can I ask one more? I love the community garden. It's absolutely brilliant. I was wondering, in terms of safety and security, etc., if you could just explain a bit more about what the vision is on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the community garden has been designed with security in mind. Obviously, this is why we wanted to get an idea of this separation between the building and the existing houses here. So there is a 5-metre separation here, which is considered a sufficient distance to be able, so that people do have, it can be overlooked and there's viewing. But if you do look at the location of it, it is provided to the rear of these dwellings to the north and these dwellings to the east. So there will be lots of eyes on the community garden. What else has been done is there's been a play section put in there for younger children. So to have that space in kind of collaboration with that community garden is considered to increase safety and the number of eyes that are on that, and for the people who use that community garden. But the way that the whole landscaping scheme has been designed is to create a really open courtyard feel. So that also kind of improves the safety and legibility of the space.
And one more, sorry, just in terms of the inside itself, like the 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, when you said accessible and adaptable, are we referring to the outside or the inside as well? And I was wondering if you could, I don't know if this is possible, have some idea of how many of the units might possibly be like for disabled access resident, etc.
Sure. So in the 2 M43 units provided at ground floor level, so these are these buildings here. So yes, the whole access is level access and wheelchair accessible. The M4, so that's equates to, I think, approximately about 12% of the units, so 2 of the 18. The rest of those units are M42, which I understand is building control jargon, but basically they will also have level access, and they will all be accessible and able to be adapted in the future if they're needed for people who require M43 units.
Any other questions? I've got a comment. Can we go to the last image? The one that you were talking about, Councillor Samatar. It looks very great. Yeah, that one. Now, my concern with this, and I have raised this with the officers, is that we need to think about how buildings are when people live in them. Yeah, as you say, when I think we're talking buildings we want to be proud of. Now, that's a great building, but we need to think about filling that with people and how they will use that space. Now, we know, and I've got plenty of examples, and I'm sure we all have within our wards, of excellent build and great ideas, and probably look great if slightly less great on paper, but people like privacy, and this is what I'm thinking. It's facing fairly close onto the road, by a bus stop, lovely glass windows, but very open, and people like privacy. They're not going to be walking around in there in whatevers, waving at the people on the bus going down the road. Now, what we're going to have is screening of various sorts, you know, the kind of rollout canes or fake plants or anything, yeah? Besides possibly using this area for not only like seats if they want to sit there, but maybe storage and chucking all their boxes out. And we know how people use, and I just think it's not going to look like this. And I think, and what I would like, and I have flagged this, like everyone and the whole planning department to think about everything and about the balustrades and the previous two examples that we passed had, I would say, a design style that would last better, you know, kind of half solid, yeah, or kind of brick. But here we are going to see a whole host of mixed matched whatevers. And I think we're not going to get this lovely sense of unity or cohesion. And whatever aesthetic has been brought here is going to be lost as soon as people move in and put up their canes and other methods of screening. And I really would like to see more thought on the balustrades to give privacy to the people within it, because they are certainly on the ground and first floor going to want more privacy and probably go up. And that as a thought, there's some really good examples of using decorative metal that's part of this scheme that adds interest and gives privacy and uniformity, which will last, you know, hopefully as long as the building does. So that's my gripe with this, that I think that this will not look like this with people living in it, because they will want privacy and they will put up a whole host of whatever they think is suitable, and it won't look like this. And I wanted to just flag it up and see if there was support to say, could the officers have a little more thought about privacy for the people in terms of what they can do with the balustrade?
Just a quick discussion about that very issue. Proposing a condition to reserve the details of the external balustrades and the facing materials of the rest of the building as well, so we can consider those issues, including privacy, when we consider the design details of those elements of the building.
And in a term that is an aesthetic that will keep a uniform appearance, provide that privacy, but give it a nice kind of uniform look. I'm quite happy to leave it to the officers to do that. Applicants, what's your opinion? Proposal amenable if we ask that our planners have a discussion with you. I'm just saying that what you presented will not look like that with people living in it. We have so many new builds with.
You talk about the hanging.
So the balustrade is the thin metal fence along the balconies, yeah? Even on our new builds with this kind of balustrade, yeah, at the end of the balconies, there are examples that have been presented with either say slanted, flatter, steel at an angle, yeah? So that gives privacy, and then the people that live in there don't feel obliged to try and attach something to it. That then takes away the aesthetic that what we're looking at. It will not look like this. And I've also seen examples of sheets of metal, interesting sheets, but with decorations, ideas, themes, but just so that what you have gives privacy to the people in it, because they will want privacy. I think they need privacy. And it will give it more of an aesthetic look, because it will not look like that when people move in.
That makes sense. I like the idea of the slanted methods that you get.
Something like that.
This looks fantastic in my opinion, and whilst people will want privacy, they'll want lots of light as well in this sort of stuff. So inevitably putting up, if you put up a brick wall there, you block a lot of light, and that would be a less pleasing space to be for residents. So
But as I say, the previous two examples, we had a mixture and like kind of like say like a cream, a solid material for half, and this kind of balustrade for another half. I'm just saying for that, I think there has been no thought in terms of the privacy side, particularly for the people in the ground first floor, next to a road, next to a bus stop, and there are creative and aesthetic ways to provide privacy. And that will make it look, as I say, some kind of better integrated visual, yeah? And I think we should just be a bit more creative. And I think we've got an opportunity to have that at no great cost, you know, just something a bit more thoughtful that will keep a longevity.
So very quickly, I think you do make a valid point, and obviously there is a bus stop, and obviously, as Robert suggested, they will look at that. Consider that.
So can we do that? Can we entrust the planners to,
Yeah.
applicant, yeah, please do come in,
Chair,
because I'm hoping that you agree with me, because we haven't, we see enough.
Don't worry, I'm not about to argue.
Oh, okay, that's good. I like that. Off you go then.
Ken Morrison, I head up the Regeneration Strategic Design team working with the Housing Regeneration team. Yeah, oh, it is, sorry, yeah, no, get closer, there we go. I mean, it's a very good point, and I think, and it's a perpetual problem. You know, it's a really, and it's quite, in a way, it's quite an intractable problem as well, because we've also seen lots of instances where we've made solid balustrades, and yet there's still been additional screening because it's a height thing then, and it gets higher. So there's that side of it. I think it's obviously a balance of light, as we've mentioned, and as you've very rightly pointed out, privacy. And I think you're right in as much as will this building look like this in 5 years' time? And I think the answer is no. I think you're right. It won't. It will be appropriated in some way, and as it should be with housing in a way. You know, I think we don't ever want to make anything that is so prescriptive that the residents feel that they can't appropriate the spaces. But I think that level of appropriation that you're bringing up is absolutely right as well, because at what level is it appropriation? Is it nice plants? And what level is it some plastic screening or whatever? And we can all kind of take a view on that. I think the important thing is that the building design is strong enough to be able to take those sort of modifications that are bound to happen over the course of the life of a building. And I think this building is a very strong building. It has a very strong rhythm. It's a very strong structure. So it can in a way afford to take a bit of, well, you know, let's call it, whether it's appropriation, whether it's abuse, call it what you will. But I think it's strong enough to hold it. I think it would be, but I think the point is absolutely fair. And I think it would be right that we could include a condition to look at the balance between light and privacy. And I think that's, you know.
Thank you. I think you could be really creative. And, you know, I really would look forward to, and I'm leaving it to the planners and to yourself. But I'm sure that you would know that living on that ground floor, you are in there, you love your flat, and you're there, and there's the road and the bus stop, and you are going to think, I'm going to have to do something about this. We know, we have seen enough times, and I think it's an opportunity. You could do something that's to the height of the balustrade and reduce it down to something interesting, and it shouldn't be, it's just particularly this side because of its relationship with the road, the bus stop, cars, people, and because it's close. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's creative. I really like all the stuff. But I think we need to give it a bit of thought right now before we build it, that it's something that will survive longer. I mean, that they could still put up their canes that could look terrible and the wind blows and they all fly off if they go higher than the balustrade, but give them that bit of privacy and bring your creativity to it. That's my ask, because it will not look like this. And, you know, let's give it a go. And if you're okay with that, we're not saying no, but please have a think about it's just this side, yeah? Yes.
What we're talking about. Could you just
We don't currently have a condition on it, so that's why we brought it up, because it needs to be added as a condition. Do we need to decide the wording on that now? Yes. Okay.
Double down on this, but can I just check, is that, will the condition be for you to take away this issue, consider it and make a determination based on your considerations, which may include the status quo, rather than to necessarily change it? Is that the correct understanding of the condition?
Yeah, I think in assessing the condition, we would inevitably look at the design of those balustrades on the south side and consider the issues you've raised, privacy versus consistency of appearance, for want of a better phrase, and analyse what the impacts, look at different alternatives, assess what a more private screen would look like or could look like, or whether or not having a variety of different screens, maybe different screens on the lower part of the building compared to the high, what the visual impact of that would be, and assess all of that together with like the quality, the normal considerations like the quality of the material, the quality of the design, how it fits in with the surrounding area, how it fits in with the host building, all those kind of normal planning considerations. So it would be that whole gamut of considerations, I guess.
So to expand on that, if what you're saying as a committee is that you do not want it to be as shown, then you can make a resolution subject to a condition that it has to be changed, but that's for you to decide. But so I think what we've discussed is about sort of exploring the possibility of changing it and what that might look like, but it would still leave it open potentially to coming to the conclusion that as designed is the best way to do it, and that might be approved. So if you adamantly want it to be something different, then that can and would need to be captured in the condition.
Councillor Potter.
I think we want to explore it, but we don't want to adamantly change it, our view, because we want you to consider the fullness in around. Yeah. But I think the points the chair's made are very valid, and I know it's been an issue on, the generations local to me. So I know we're kind of learning from all our previous experience. So it'll be good to kind of look and consider. I have had existing residents say, "Oh my God, I keep seeing their naked bodies in the tall windows, etc." I've had loads of those comments. So I don't know if you get all that feedback, but I think it would be good to just consider all that, but around, yeah.
Yeah, I just point out that there is a big element of discretion at the head of planning to bring things before the committee. So I dare say that if we concluded that it should stay, maybe for good reasons, exactly as it is, we might think, hey, about this, maybe this could be argued to not take into account committee's concerns, and so we do maybe use the the head of planning's discretion to bring an item back to committee. It wouldn't be something that we would do very often, but this may be one instance where that would be helpful. Or it may be that we come up with a really interesting creative design which we think addresses the committee's considerations, in which case there may be no need to bring it back to committee. It depends on what we see at the other end, I guess.
I kind of like the first version, which is, it's just such an opportunity to build in aesthetic, thoughtful screening for this block that they will be very grateful, which will give it an aesthetic appeal as a unified, as I said, you can't stop them putting the canes up or doing other strange things, but I think that this is too open, too much overlooking, and instantly the people inside it will be putting up a whole host of things which will take away, what could be a really nice and thoughtful singular aspect, yeah, facing the road, not a, you know. So I'm happy to entrust our team to talk to the applicant and find something that actually looks good and will last despite the residents' best endeavours. Yeah. So, can we, what you said, first of all, was very good. Yeah. So that with the condition that, balustrade, treatment to this, facade that we're looking at is explored in terms of trying to find something that's mutually acceptable and provides privacy and aesthetic. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
That happens alongside material.
Yes, I just wanted to bring us, whilst we are talking about materials, there was an oversight and we have not included a materials condition, which is a standard condition we usually ask for as part of it. So would you be happy to include facing materials for the building as well in that condition? And that can be wrapped up with that. Okay.
Appreciate you going through the materials so that we could think about the context. It's all very important. Did like that. Do like the breakup, but it's just going to be absolutely thrown away from this side if we don't put something that gives an active screening. Yeah, while you have that, while we have that possibility. Thank you. With that condition, and with the recommendation summary to grant conditional permission, subject to a completion of a legal agreement with that additional point. Those in favour, please show. Fabulous, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing it in its completion. Beautiful screening, thank you. Two seconds more, delegated decisions, agenda item 8. Subcommittee members, have you noted the delegated decisions document? Yes. You have, that's great, thank you very much. Agenda item 9, any other business I consider urgent? I haven't had any AOBs, is everyone all right with that? Great, that's fantastic. No other AOB. The next meeting is on Wednesday, the 3rd of December. You're not going to change that, are you?
I believe so at the moment, pending further information. I understand it is at the moment anyway.
Please make a note of that, and thank you all for attending. This is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Monsieur, if you could finish the live stream and the recording, please, that'd be great. Thank you.